Hey, this is Stereo Police, and I'm beginning this video out back because it is a nice day. It is Wednesday, and it's about somewhere around 5 o'clock p.m., and I'm taking a break. I normally work till about 7 or 8, and taking a break. I usually take a break and walk around the field. Sometimes I walk up and down the street, but now some days I just feel like walking around the field, and the dog doesn't feel like walking. I just try to get him out, and he doesn't feel like walking, so I'm just going to walk myself. Maybe I'll try to coax him out again, but anyway, I'm making this video to, in essence, answer a question. Several viewers, perhaps subscribers, I'm not sure, have asked me to make a proper introduction of who I am and how I became interested in audio and what my background is, and that's understandable, and I'll do my best to answer those questions, although I must say I do very much value my privacy, and I don't want to reveal who I am or exactly where I live. And if anyone knows me, I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't do that either. I never, when I began my YouTube channel, I never thought that it would become really, that big. I thought maybe I'd have a handful of perhaps subscribers. I never realized that I'd have as many folks as I do subscribing and commenting on my videos, and I'm humbled by it, and I really appreciate it, and I'm very happy about that. But at the same time, there are some very strange people out there, so don't want to reveal too much about myself, but at the same time, I do understand that a proper introduction would be helpful. So let me start by saying that everything I'm going to tell you, I've probably mentioned piecemeal here and there in videos as it came up, because most of what I say is spontaneous, a stream of consciousness as unscripted videos, and as things come up I just talk about them. A lot of things are very tangential, but I will say that, well, I have been interested in audio since I was probably about 7, 8 years old, and the hobby just began with a fascination with radios, handheld radios, and kits. You buy a Radio Shack or Heathkit, anything that made sound. And I don't know why. Who knows why we're interested in the things we're interested in. And I love speakers too. Loudspeakers. And let me just fast forward to my YouTube channel again and mention something I forgot to mention about the channel. For all my life, my interest in my hobby in high-end audio has always been kind of a very personal thing. It's I've never really shared it with people, because not because it's meant to be that way. I just never knew I never had any close friends or close associates that were really audiophiles or that into it. It's just been me, and I've had friends, and we have people. I enjoy having friends over, and we listen to records and albums and music and all that. But no one that really shares my interest in the equipment and philosophies and reproduction of sound and high-end audio and recreating a concert in your room. And also my interest in equipment. I mentioned I'm an equipment file. I view equipment as works of art. In the same way you'd buy a work of art and set it there and you just look at it. There's nothing wrong with that if it brings you happiness and joy. Well, I find it the same with equipment. Except equipment's better because it's not only is it a work of art, it also does something. It's a machine. So it's been pretty much a personal thing until the point where I started this channel, and it was just an accidental thing. If you look at some of my earliest videos, it was just almost me making videos for myself for the future to look back upon. And I never really fully realized how many other people out there were, I've reached other people who had the same or similar interests, and I knew they were out there. I just never knew anyone like that. So it's been really gratifying and really satisfying. It's especially gratifying and satisfying when people tell me that some video, they can relate to something I said, or or something, some way that I feel about something. Hey, I can really relate to that. I can understand that. I feel the same way, or I did the same thing, or I do the same thing. That's really cool. Because again, I've never had any friends or associates that are into this hobby. So it's been a really good experience having this channel. And I appreciate all you guys who comment and say, have constructive things to say, and positive things. All about positivity and contributions. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that, so yeah, it's been great having the channel, and so along the way, I never thought the channel would grow to where it did, and I don't monetize. I have no interest in growing it. I just do what I do. If it grows, it grows. It doesn't, it doesn't. I really don't care, but I'm glad that it's been helpful. But along the way, I never really made a proper introduction, and so I'll attempt to do so today. Okay, let's take a walk. Jasper, you want to go for a walk? Come on. The sun's down. Come on, let's go for a walk. Come on. Come on, the camera's still rolling. I'm not going to cut. I'm not going to wait for you. Let's go for a walk. Come on. Come on, I've got it on the tripod, so I'm going to try to keep this, you want to go for a walk? The sun is away, it's not hot, come on. Come on. Alright, so, I'm going to do this whole video in one, without a single cut. And my dog is not going to walk with me. A little son of a gun. You want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk? Have it your way. I'll walk myself. You want to go for a walk? All right. Okay, so, a person is not just defined by education. People are proud of their college degrees or in that sort of thing. People say, what do you do? And people are proud of what they do as a career and in college degrees. But, as a whole person, you're defined by everything, all your experiences in life. And for me, and to me, the years that form me the most are really more like childhood and preteen years. Those things really play a huge role in what you ultimately become and are interested in. And for me, those are the years I was, for some reason, when all the other kids were watching Bugs Bunny and riding dirt bikes and going to the roller skating rink. By the way, I'm 53 years old, so when I'm talking about when I was a kid, I'm talking 70s. So when the kids were doing that stuff, I was building things. I had erector sets and Lincoln logs, and I was building bridges and trusses and hanging weights from them, building cranes on erector sets and hanging weights and seeing when they collapsed and finding their weaknesses and then trying to make them stronger and hanging weights again and see if it worked and improving them and hanging heavier weights and civil engineering projects and mechanical engineering things and then eventually as I got older digging ditches and building real bridges for bicycles and it was all civil and mechanical engineering that I was into, but along the way I was into radios as well and building kits. Here's the shed, by the way, where I keep the John Deere to cut all the grass here. And I've been keeping what I call biomass pile right here. Whenever I trim trees and shrubbery, I pile it right here, and this pile's been going for years. And man, there are a lot of animals that live on here. Tons of bunny rabbits live under there. We see them from the house, and there's a groundhog that comes out, and just, you know, at nighttime I'm at the house and I'm looking down this area, there's just tons of animals down here in the field. And a lot of them go right to where this pile is here. So it's pretty cool. Alright, so anyway, I was into radios, and we used to have a Heathkit store. I neglected to tell you I grew up in Northern Virginia, in the Arlington County area. And we used to have a Heathkit store down on Route 1, and I would, you know, things were expensive at Heathkit, but, you know, I used to buy the cheaper kits, like the AM Crystal radio kits, and they had some inexpensive stuff, and Radio Shack had some kits as well, affordable, and I used to love building kits. Learned, self-taught how to solder. You know, I bought my own little wire cutters, and I learned how to solder, and, you know, it was so gratifying to be able to put something together, electronic together, and make it work. And it was so different from the mechanical things, and building, you know, trusses and mechanical devices are a little more intuitive in that you can see them, you know, you can see things rotating and moving, and you can kind of envision how things are going to work or going to fail. Whereas electrical things are a little more mysterious. You know, you can't look at a capacitor and tell what it's going to do or not do. Just to give you one example. So it was that mystery factor. You know, I used to tear radios apart, you know, and look at, you know, I'd see all the, I didn't know what they were at the time, but I'd see the little coils and the chokes and the capacitors and the resistors, and I used to love the smell of them too. Everything about it. The speaker, I'd pull the speaker out. It was just awesome, but I didn't know how it worked. You know, it used to really upset me. I could figure out mechanical things, but electrical things just didn't know how they worked. So, anyway, so as a teenager, you know, I would try my, and I took classes in school, in elementary school. I took this class called Bulbs and Batteries and learned how switches worked and bulbs worked. I keep hearing something back there. I don't know if it's a bird or a deer. Hang on a second. What the heck is that? Oh, it is a doe. I mean a fawn. Yeah, it's a fawn. Okay, gotcha. And then I took electronics in high school. But you know, that knowledge, it's basic rudimentary stuff, you know, and I took electronics in high school, and I also took a class on electrical wiring, you know, household wiring, switches and light switches, and, you know, and that sort of thing. And along the way, you know, I was interested in audio, and, you know, back in the day, you know, before PCs, cell phones, you know, before our, you know, now kids' interests are all online stuff, and, you know, there's a lot of things that take your interest these days. But back then, we were audio and stereos were a big thing, and we spent a lot of time putting stereos in our cars. We spent a lot of time listening to stereos in our bedrooms, listening to the radio. It was a much bigger thing than it is now, I believe, for the younger generation. And I'm not criticizing anything here. I'm just saying it was a bigger thing. And so I spent a lot of time, you know, when I got my first car, installing my own stereo, upgrading the speakers, 6x9s in the rear deck, you know, constantly toying with my home stereo. I built my own speakers in wood shop in high school. You know, it never ended. But nevertheless, my knowledge was still rudimentary. So when I graduated high school, I decided to go to community college And I was a mechanic at the time, and I was going to probably be some kind of mechanic. I was going to take a blue collar path, but I wanted to learn more about electronics for my own hobby. I wanted to be able to build audio equipment, namely amplifiers. I wanted to be able to build speakers, preamps. I was interested in doing that. So I got a 2-year degree in electrical engineering, and I realized through that process that it's, you know, you learn the theory of things, but unless you're actually going to, you know, build things yourself in your own house, you don't learn anything practical in college. So again, along the way, I was building amps at home and trying to put that theoretical knowledge, you know, to use and learning, you know. I built tube amps, transistor amps, and you know, and that's when I learned that, you know, despite, you know, you can learn theory all you want to, and you can crunch numbers and simulate and design things, and you can come up with a whole design. Once you go to build a prototype, it ain't gonna work. You get a design on paper, it gets you about 60, anywhere between 60 to 80% there, and it's gonna fail, and then you got to tweak it. And you got to figure out how you screwed the simulation of the design up, and you got to tweak it literally on the bench. That's where I learned that, and that was enjoyable, right? But anyway, I got the 2-year degree, and then my girlfriend at the time just said to me, you know, you got this 2-year degree, don't let it go to waste. I mean, it could be a good career for you, better than being a mechanic. Just go to university, get the full 4 years. So fast forward, I did that. Got a 4-year degree. Went to a university, a major university in Virginia, got a 4-year engineering degree, graduated, and did not want to go into the audio field. I wanted that to remain a hobby. So when I graduated, I got a job. Even before I graduated, I went to a job fair and got a job, was fortunate enough to find a job in the field of electro-optics. And it was fascinating. I did that for about 5 years, and some design work and some logistics work and some taking field measurements, and you know, it was a variety of things. It was interesting. And then an opportunity came my way to migrate over to, or change careers altogether and move over to the intellectual property law field, which required me to get a whole new level of retraining. And I did that, and I've been in that field now for 23 years. And I'll just leave it at that, intellectual property law. It is a good field. It's a lucrative field. It's a secure field. It's good. I wouldn't say it's exciting, but I enjoy it. And it's a mixture of law and engineering. It's a nice, weird, little eclectic mixture. And you know, it's again, I enjoy it. Not for everybody, but that's what I do. And in the meantime, I get to enjoy my hobby on the side. And over the years, since graduating from college, you know, my hobby, my interest in audio has waxed and waned. I've had high-end systems, I've had no systems. I've sold them, I've bought them. I've had many pieces of equipment over the years. Sometimes my interest has peaked. Sometimes I've been bored. Is that a beautiful butterfly there? Sometimes I get a little bored with it. You know, right now it's kind of peaking. I'm loving life with my current stereo, my current system, and again, over the years I've built lots of kits. I've read, oh yeah, mostly self-trained. I mean, like I said, college degrees, a lot of theory. It can only get you so far. You got to do things. You have to build things. You have to build kits. You have to read your own books. Tons of books. You've got to do. You've got to solder. You've got to cut wires. You build, destroy things, screw things up, learn how you messed them up, fix them. You know, I've been doing this stuff since the 80s. So that's how I got my technical skills. That's my background. That's pretty much that. I'm letting this outer field grow, by the way. I've cut some trails in it. I let that side field over there grow. That area right there, I'm letting that grow. I'm letting this back field here grow. I'm just cutting some trails in it. It saves gas. Saves time cutting, you know, cutting the grass. The deer like it. I'm sure the snakes like it. So that's my background. Now I will say this. I just think that I remember before I went to school and learned how things worked. When things were a lot more magical, when these boxes, you know, these boxes that we call amplifiers and preamplifiers and record players, turntables, cassette decks, now DACs. When I didn't know how they worked, you know, when they were magical, well, I kind of enjoyed it more. When they were more of a mystery in terms of how they worked, I kind of enjoyed it a little more. There's just something extra there. And that's just kind of the way it is in life. If you know too much about something, now I'm not saying, you know, with your career you should always be the best you're going to be at that. You should know a lot about what you do. But other things, you know, sometimes certain things, if you learn too much about things, you become miserable or jaded. You know, like people that know too much about, that study politics too much, or regardless of their party, are usually miserable assholes. People that don't know crap about it run around with a smile on their face. That's just one example, you know. Some people, you know, every day I go down to the store every day, this supermarket, because I work from home and I gotta get out of the house, and I go down there and I run into the same people every day and talk to them. You know, smile and friendly and little chats here and there, and you know, everything used to be good, and then over the years I got to know certain people a little too well, and now I kind of don't like them as much because I know stuff about them. I'd rather not know stuff. Well, you know, things like that. I'd rather be simple. You can always spot the simple person. You know, they got the smile on their face. You can always spot the so-called intellect. They're freaking miserable. I'm working on being simple. I want to take a stupid pill sometimes. Yeah, it's called a bottle of wine, all right. Anyway, things were better when I didn't know as much, and I'm kind of, it's kind of like me with DACs right now, okay? I started to study the crap out of Delta Sigma DACs because I really wanted to know how they work. They were mysterious, and I started really getting into it. And I kind of know how they work now, and it's fascinating. But then it came to a screeching halt. I was just thinking to myself, you know, I was in the middle of, I was just thinking, why do I give a shit? And that's when this is about the time my whole philosophy started changing, and I'll get into that in a minute. My whole philosophy about, I don't care. I'm not going to sit here and judge something by how it works. I'm going to judge it by how it sounds. Anyway, I'm on a tangent, but so I was kind of happier. I used to enjoy building amps and designing them, and I don't do that much anymore. I kind of enjoy repairing things now. But, you know, I don't know, I get off on a tangent, but I'd rather almost not know how things work. I just want to enjoy the hobby now. Just want to buy fine equipment, stuff that really sounds great, and enjoy the hobby. So anyway, that's my background. I don't know if I answered the question properly. Not quite sure I did. But I'm just a tinkerer. I don't really have credentials in the audio field, and the only credibility is what you give me. You know, if I tell you something that turns out to be true, and you know, if I tell you something that you appreciate and like and it's helpful, then you tell me. It's up to you if I have credibility. You know, that's it. And the last thing I want to say, just regarding a couple of my philosophies. This has nothing to do with my background, it's just my philosophies about audio, which have changed over the years. One of my philosophies, and I just told you one, I'd rather keep it simple, and I've kind of switched over. I used to get married to technologies and swear by technologies. You know, tubes have to be better than transistors, MOSFETs have to be better than BJTs, Class A has to be better than Class A, B. No, you get the idea. But now I'm more. I used to have a lot of biases and prejudices, and I still have a few. But now I'm more about. I've come to realize a little late in the game, probably, that it's really, really, really just about letting your ears tell you what's good. So that's one of my philosophies. Don't let specs or the particular technology tell you that it's good. And don't let another human being tell you that something is good or bad. Certainly you can look to other people to guide you. There's nothing wrong with that. But if something sounds good to you and someone's trying to convince you it's not good, that's bullshit. Or vice versa. So, that's one of my main philosophies about audio. I've got a few more, but looks like it's about to rain. Let me see. I've kind of got another, not a philosophy, but sort of an opinion. And it's just based on my experiences, but there's actually two things here. One is, I firmly believe you can have a super, super fantastic, what I consider to be a high-end system, at a very reasonable price. The problem is figuring out which stuff to get, which stuff to buy. And for that, you have to rely on other people to get you started. But then you got to, hear for yourself. And that's one of the reasons I'm reviewing this this Yamaha AS301s and Klipsch RP600 system. And I'll get to that later, but I believe, and I'm fascinated by how good of a system you can get for a very reasonable price. The contrary is true also. You can buy some total heaping, steaming piles of shit for a lot of money. So it works both ways. I also believe, as a general rule, not as a universal rule, but as a general rule, newer is better. We collectively, the audio community, companies, are making better equipment than we've ever made in history. Technologies are better, and our expectations as listeners have guided companies to make better equipment. Our expectations, and companies have responded in kind. So newer equipment is, and I've listened to a lot of used gear, and I'm telling you, newer is better for, it's not universal, but generally that is true. And the value of newer equipment is far beyond the value of what we had before us many years ago. Now, I don't know if I call it a philosophy, it's just more of my own opinion, I guess. And so I've got more, but this wasn't really the focus of the video. I just wanted to kind of introduce myself and so again, back to the channel. I'm glad, and again, what I do is I've never had a purpose. I've never had a mission statement. I've never had a nothing. I pick up the camera when I feel like talking, and I make a video about a topic that I feel like talking about. Mostly unscripted and mostly unrehearsed, and I know that comes across that way. And whatever comes out, comes out. And that's it. And the fact that people appreciate it and like it just humbles me, but it stuns me sometimes, and I'm that's what keeps me going. I mean, I'm shocked, but that's what my channel is all about. It's a whole lot of nothing, and who am I? I'm a nobody, but I'm a nobody who enjoys audio, and I'm glad to have this hobby that used to be very solitary. I'm glad to have some online, I guess you can't say friends, the word friend has a certain denotation and connotation, but some online acquaintances who share the same passion or hobby, and it's nice to you know, to share some words, kind words, and share some stories, and share a common interest through our YouTube comment section, and you don't feel quite so alone sometimes, given that hobby. Sometimes I wish I had a close friend or associate to sort of hang out with and enjoy the hobby, but sometimes I'm kind of glad I don't, because after a long day's work or what have you, I sometimes enjoy the solitude. So there are times, you may think, based on these videos, I really like to jibber jabber. I really like to talk, but I really don't. I'm kind of a quiet person. I really am. Sometimes it's an effort to make these videos just to talk this much, but it might not sound like it, but it is. Okay, well, that's kind of who I am and my background, and I told you I'm 53 years old. I'm a child of the 80s and still a teenager in my head, and I live in Central Virginia, and I am married. I've been with the same girl since the mid-80s, so I'm a loyal person. And I have my doggie. Everyone knows my doggie. And there you go. It's about all I really want to reveal, and I appreciate you guys, and thanks, and I'll be getting back to making my conclusion, my part 3 of the Yamaha AS301 review real soon. Thanks for stopping by. Once again, looks like it might rain here in beautiful Central Virginia. That's why it's so damn green out here, because of the rain we get once every hour. Ciao. We'll say goodbye, Jaspy.